Monsoon.
Welcome to the Monsoon.
Ohio wasabi. Wait, no, that means hello.
Oh. Huh. I did not know that. You learn something new every day, huh, Andy?
You sure do, Stephanie. Hey, it's Atomic Monsoon.
It is, and it's earlier than we normally record.
It is. No one's going to know that
course.
because they're going to listen to it, whenever. But yeah,
True.
I have a thing this afternoon where I got asked to be a guest speaker in a graphic design class. So
That's awesome.
thank you for being flexible with your schedule, and thanks to the fine folks at Voice America for being flexible enough to let us record a little bit earlier than usual.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still waking up here, so.
No, that's fine. Yeah, it's the morning of May 15th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We're all still quarantined.
Yep.
Although Arizona, they're gonna try opening businesses today, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I just, the last few weeks we've been seeing other places open up and then a spike in new COVID-19 cases. Anyways, let's talk about something fun.
Yay! Fun. What's fun?
What's fun? Anime's pretty fun. You want to talk about some anime?
Oh my God, yes.
So, Stephanie, when I was a kid, we didn't have the term anime.
Oh.
Well, because when I was a kid, it was the 80s.
Yeah.
And anime is a closer to correct pronunciation, although, Americans have kind of bastardized it into just anime.
Yeah.
And the plural of anime, incidentally, is still anime. There's no S at the end of that because it's a Japanese word. Japanese don't add S's to the end of plurals. So,
makes sense.
Yeah, you have one anime or several anime. Animes is not a word. Anyways,
No.
Not only is anime is not a word now, it was not a word when I was a kid. When I was a kid, we had Japan from cartoons. Cartoons from Japan. It's still early over here.
Yep.
Or one, and I think we've talked about this on the show before, is one of the video stores near one of the places I lived growing up had a section called Japanimation.
That's
because it
yep.
was animation from Japan.
Yep.
And yep. It's kind of that late 80s, early 90s period was when here in the States we really kind of started getting some anime programming. There were things like King East Go Lion got turned into Voltron, Speed Racer, and Astro Boy and Gigantor were obviously Japanese cartoons that we got earlier. Pardon me. But kind of in the Akira, Vampire Hunter D, kind of that time period in the late 80s when it was just like, oh, let's try releasing these movies with an English dub in America and see how it goes. And we were seeing things in movies that American cartoons just weren't doing, right? There were adult themes in every sense of that word. Some of which ended up becoming very unfortunate stereotypes for anime in general.
Yeah.
But very Vampire Hunter D, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. But it's pretty violent. There's a scene where a guy's head explodes and you see everything in his brain and all that, like just there. It's pretty gross, and I saw it, when I was like 15 or whatever. Because we didn't know, right? It's animated. All cartoons in America, with a few exceptions, were pretty much all for kids.
Yeah.
The Simpsons was sort of straddling the line at the time, and like Beavis and Butthead was around, but like we didn't have there wasn't Family Guy. There was no adults. We didn't have any of that stuff. So yeah, it just Japanimation was where you went to find things that you couldn't see on American television.
Makes sense. Makes absolute sense.
Yeah. And then as
here we are
time
today.
went on, here we are today. Yeah, as time went on, we went from here's the occasional movie to like, oh, here's some episodes of a TV show. And if this anime show like series does well, like we'll keep making them.
Yeah.
right? And so that's what we're here to talk about today. Some of our favorite anime series.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know we were pushing our time limits at the last couple favorite lists, so we cut it down to just 3 shows each with a couple of honorable mentions.
Yep.
Do you want to go first with an honorable mention?
Sure. I'm gonna go with one of my honorable mentions. I thought of this one a few days ago.
Okay.
And I was kind of going back and forth of like, oh, okay, all the anime that I've watched, was there ever another one that I kind of really, really enjoyed? And one that I thought of was Free Iwatobi High School Swim Club.
Oh, what?
I will say it again slower. So it's free, like the word, like, like free food, like FREE, exclamation point, Iwatobi,
Okay.
which is the name of the school, High School Swim Club.
Okay.
It's one of those sports anime that really kind of popularized in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. And it's literally about a group of guys that form a swim club at their high school, and they go and they compete in swim meets.
Okay.
There's not much else to it. But, I thoroughly enjoyed the series, and they have really, great and funny characters. And just it's literally like a feel-good anime about swimming. And it's actually the one anime that, like, when watching it, I was like, man, I really want to go swimming now. And I went to my college, the ASU has like this, they have like the gym and everything. And in the back of the gym, they have like a huge swimming area that's outside. I actually went and just swam laps in that pool after watching the series. I was like, I want to go swimming now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's a great show. I had a couple of shirts. I had and things like that from the show that they sold at Hot Topic. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about you?
How about me? So this series is actually still going on right now. My roommates and I have been watching it on Crunchyroll. I haven't seen every episode. Crunchyroll, incidentally, if you're not aware, is a streaming anime service similar to Netflix and Hulu and stuff. There's a free version and a premium version. The free version, you can watch pretty much anything a couple weeks after it comes out, but there's ad breaks throughout it.
Okay.
If you pay for it, I think there's not ads, is how it works.
Okay.
And there might be some more stuff available on the premium version. I'm not 100% sure. We don't pay for it. We just deal with the ad breaks here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so this series is in English called Food Wars. And I'm going to butcher the Japanese name. I better double check and look it up. But it's the story about a kid whose family, his dad owns a diner, and the dad decides he's going to go on like an excursion to go learn how to cook better. And so the kid needs to go to basically food college.
Oh.
And ends up meeting with a bunch of other students who are all, the best cooks in their area. But, are they the best? Do they deserve to be the most renowned gourmet cooks in Japan? Yeah. Shokugeki no Soma is the Japanese name for the title.
So I have actually heard it I've actually heard the Japanese title several times, and you said it correctly. So.
I had to look it up because I wasn't sure what order the words went in.
Okay, fair.
Because Shokugeki no Soma translates to Soma of the Shokugeki. The Shokugeki are the food competitions that they find themselves in throughout the series, and Soma is the name of the main character. But Food Wars is a much more catchy title for American audiences.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like it wouldn't be that exciting because it's this kid going to food college, and are they all the best students or whatever? Are they all the best cooks? Mm-hmm. But like they set it up in a way where it's very dramatic, and there's a lot of cliffhangers. Like, oh, we just had our competition, and who is the winner? And like they set it up in just the right way where you're like, well, crap, I can't stop watching. I have to watch the next episode to see who wins.
Exactly, yeah.
And so, so even though they do an episode a week, we usually will wait a few weeks and let them build up so that we don't get stuck on a cliffhanger.
Good call.
Yeah, yeah. So that one's a lot of fun. The manga for it is on like volume 30 something or 40 something. Like there's a ton of it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, the anime is still going on now. So yeah, yeah. Food
Wow.
Wars. Yeah, check it out.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you have any other honorable mentions? Because I have one
I
more.
I have one more as well. My next
Perfect.
honorable mention is it has kind of been reclaimed as one of the greatest anime
Okay.
of all time.
Okay.
That is a kind of a high title to take with it, but you talk to anyone who's seen this anime and they will give nothing but high praises to it. It is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay. So I know very little about Full Metal Alchemist. Can you explain to me the difference between Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood?
Of course.
Okay.
So the original Full Metal Alchemist series came out in like the early to mid 2000s.
Okay.
And it was loosely based on the manga. It
Mhm.
wasn't very, it wasn't it wasn't like frame for frame type of thing.
Was it one of those things where like the manga wasn't done yet, so they did what they could up until a certain point, and then they just kind of made stuff up?
Yeah, it was that.
Okay.
It was very much that.
Okay.
It's not.
That's pretty common actually. So.
Yeah, it is very common. And I'm not saying that the first Full Metal Alchemist wasn't bad. But the second one definitely deep dives and just takes it to a whole other level. Like the first one definitely adds more character development and growth and build up for the two brothers, Edward and Alphonse. Yeah, everyone in the series has not actually has, I don't want to say regular names, but they have names that for American audiences are easy to understand and say.
Sure.
Because sometimes, when you're watching an anime, there are some characters that have these, these really amazing, beautiful Japanese names, but sometimes it's hard to say.
Or it's something that we're just not familiar with.
Exactly.
Right? It's a very common everyday name in Japan, but in
Yes.
America, it's not John.
Yeah. It's not John,
Chris.
it's not Frank, it's not Susie,
Yeah.
it's not any of that.
Right.
Yeah. So, but they do a really good job kind of like building the brotherly relationships with them and showing them with their teacher who teaches them how to actually use alchemy and everything like that.
Okay.
And kind of along those lines, and kind of go a little bit more into what a homunculus is.
Okay.
But in the Brotherhood series, they don't go into it as much. They don't really show a lot of that character development in like the sense of when the boys were younger.
Okay.
And before they performed the taboo ritual that resulted in Edward losing losing one of his arms and one of his legs, and Alphonse losing his entire body and being soul-bound to a suit of armor.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. It definitely just goes like straight to the point, and it follows a lot of it follows the manga like almost perfectly, I think. I don't want to say it says it's perfectly because I kind of need to like go back and reference the two, but the series is fantastic. It's amazing. It's gritty, and it's the one anime series where I actually notice a character get taller.
Huh.
Like, I mean, like what? Yeah, I mean, like watching other anime, I don't really notice it, but with Edward, he's always kind of been like the short kid, and then there's like this one episode toward the end where he's standing with this their friend Winry, and like he's literally like an inch or two taller than her, and I'm like, when did you get tall?
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Great series, highly recommend it.
Yeah. So. All right, so I have one more honorable mention. And this series probably should belong on my top. I mean, it's in my top 5 favorite anime series for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But going into the detail about it would take. I mean, we could do an entire episode on it. So I just want to mention real quick: Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. I love the original Ghost in the Shell manga by Masamune Shiro or Shiro Masamune, depending on what country you're in. I don't really care for the first Ghost in the Shell movie that came out in 1995. It's fine, but I feel like, and maybe it's because I've only watched the English dub, but I feel like it misses the point of the story, or at least it missed what I took out of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Ghost in the Shell sequel movie, Innocence, is fantastic, but is so not what the original manga was, that like it's kind of its own thing. And I feel like the series Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, which played on Adult Swim and Toonami for a long time. I mean, this thing's probably like almost 15 years old at this point. Man, I just got old. But I feel like it's not a prequel to the manga. Like, it is a reworking of it into a long blown series, but it gives you so much more depth with the characters, and it does feel like, oh, this is why, Major Kusanagi is part of Section 9. This is why Bateau, this is a stories about his military past, and here's where Ishikawa comes from, and here's where and there's some of your fun Japanese names that Americans wouldn't know. But yeah, like it again, without going into too much detail, and it's only, I want to say it's only like 25 episodes. The first season's only like 25 episodes. The second series is not as great, but is still very good. And I think between the two of them, you're looking at about 50 to 55 episodes, and a movie. So there's not a ton of it, but it's pretty heavy. And there are definitely some episodes where like I get done and be like, oh, I got to take a break from watching TV for a while. So not because of anything like super violent, just they're heavy, like they're just deep episodes. So
I get that.
So, gentle listener, as you may have noticed, we are talking about anime series today, not anime movies. Although obviously some of these series have had movies based on them, which we may or may not touch on. So I'm gonna break the order, and I'm gonna go again real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the first anime series that I watched, knowing that it was an anime series, was a cartoon from Japan, anime. It was a show that randomly appeared on 1 September in 1995 with no announcement, no fanfare, no nothing. And I happened to catch it because I was flipping through channels in my house in Waltham, Massachusetts. I was downstairs in the living room at like 7 a.m. while everyone else was asleep, and there was this thing on called Sailor Moon, and I was like, this is one of those Japanimation cartoons. I should watch this. And so I did, and it was weird and a little different. And what was especially strange is that the episode, I found out later, the episode that they aired randomly as just sort of a test pilot to see if it would catch on in America, which again, I don't know who they expected to watch with like no fanfare or whatever, right? No announcement, no commercials that I was aware of. This is 95, so there was barely an internet. Like, I wasn't online. So I don't know what the hype machine behind this was. But anyways, just randomly September 95, here is episode 1 of series 2 of Sailor Moon.
What?
Yeah. Just here you go. Here, just have it.
Wow.
And the next week, I was like, okay, cool. I don't remember what channel it was on now because that was 95. That was 25 years ago. Whatever station it was, I was like, okay, it was on this station at this time. Cool. I'm going to tune in next week and I'm going to watch the next episode. And it wasn't there. And it wasn't there the next week. And it wasn't there the next week. And it wasn't until like the following spring, some other channel was playing it at 7:30 in the morning, like right before I had to go to school.
What?
And they started at the beginning. I don't know. So, Sailor Moon is the story of a girl named Usagi Tsukino, which is a very funny pun because in Japan they don't have the moon, they have the bunny moon. And Usagi is the Japanese word for bunny. She is she is secretly a superhero. She's reawoken to her superhero past and becomes Sailor Moon. And throughout the course of the series, they meet other sailor soldiers, sailor scouts, sailor senshi, depending on which translation you're listening to. And they're all named after the planet. So, Sailor Mars, Sailor Venus, Sailor Jupiter, Sailor Mercury, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And they are here to fight the Dark Kingdom, to protect Earth and this realm from the Dark Kingdom. Or if you're listening to the original dub by Deke, It's Serena is Sailor Moon, and she is here to protect us from the evils of the Negaverse.
Those sound like two very different things.
It's pretty funny. One of the things about Sailor Moon that I kind of love is that there are two very distinct English dubs of it. And the first one is very 90s. Like I said, it came out in 95, 96. It was done by Deke out of Canada. And it is just full of 90s like Valley Girl and surfer dude slang. And I understand that there were some censorships made for American television. A lot of people online say that the Deke version is butchered. It's not. Like, I own the original series on DVD in Japanese. Like, the Deke versions aren't great. No, that's not true. The Deke versions aren't perfect, but they are great in their own charming way.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the version of Sailor Moon that you grew up with. If you did not grow up with that, I very much recommend the version that's on Hulu because it's a more accurate translation of the original Japanese version.
Okay.
Sailor Moon started as a manga series. I have all the manga, actually. And it is very much not like the manga at all. Because like we were saying earlier with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, the anime for Sailor Moon started before the manga was finished.
Mm-hmm.
So what they would do is they would have episodes that would pertain to the plot that would mirror the plot of the manga, but in between those they would have Monster of the Week episodes similar to an episode of Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And since the Sailor Senshi are effectively just all female it's all female Power Ranger team, like it actually fit really well with that setup.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not the kind of person who wants to read and you do want to experience Sailor Moon, but you want to see a more accurate depiction, the current series going on called Sailor Moon Crystal is an animated version of the manga story now that the manga is complete. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that's the difference between Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon Crystal. Is they're the same story, just Crystal is shorter and is like watching the original series on fast forward, like no filler episodes, just all plot all the time.
Excellent.
Also, it's way prettier because they're animating it now as opposed to the early 90s.
Yeah.
They get all the fun computer animation. And something I do appreciate about Crystal as well, and this is the last thing I say about Sailor Moon before we move on, is with Crystal, sometimes they are under deadline crunches, and so they just need to get the episode out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back and fix the animation, like bad animation mistakes for the streaming and video releases.
Dang.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because they wanted to make sure Naoko Takeuchi, I think is how you pronounce her name. Like she and her team wanted to make sure, like, no, if we're redoing Sailor Moon, we're redoing it the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, to get an episode out, sometimes there are some animation mistakes or things that just aren't perfect, but they do go back and fix them later. So, yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, Sailor Moon's great. Coming from a dude, it is late 30s.
I mean, I definitely didn't have it on my list, so there's that.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's awesome. Yeah, no, for my first one here. So to give a little bit of a backstory to it, it was the summer between freshman and sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
And a friend of mine invited me to go with her and her family to Laguna Beach, California. Mm-hmm. And while they're on their tablet, it wasn't even I don't think even the iPad was out yet. It was some form of tablet.
Okay.
But we sat and we were watching this strange series that I could not pronounce, at least until I watched it a little more.
Sure.
But we were watching I want to say several dozen, I want to say about a dozen episodes we watched over that trip. We did not start at episode 1. We just started kind of in the middle. Okay, not in the middle, but
no, right, like not at the beginning, a few episodes in, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And after we finished watching it, I was like, okay, I gotta go find this show and I have to go watch it. And the show is Inuyasha.
Oh, good old Inuyasha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, the interesting about this show is that this show was released in the mid to late 90s in manga form.
Right.
And it finished its manga in 2008.
Oh yeah, it's long.
It's a long series. Like it's 100. So I actually looked it up. It's 167 episodes long in the regular series. And the reason why I said the regular series is because there is a 26 episode final act where they finally, defeat the bad guy and everything like that and put an end to the series.
Okay.
There's also 4 feature films that you can, I think all 4 of them are on Netflix.
Okay.
And the anime is on Hulu. So
Okay. Okay.
I think, yeah. But the anime was like, it's really, really good. The story goes, Kagome Higurashi falls into her family's, well, not really falls, but goes to her family shrine where there is a sacred well called the Bone Eater's Well. And a demon pops up, grabs her, and then drags her 500 years into the past to feudal era Japan.
As you do.
As you do. And once there, she kind of saves, but also meets this half demon, who's half dog demon, half human, named Inuyasha.
Mm-hmm.
And they go on this huge adventure together to protect what is known as the sacred jewel that was supposedly, in Inuyasha's time, burned and buried with the priestess Kikyo 50 years ago. And somehow was put in Kagome's body because Kagome is Kikyo's reincarnation, and it goes down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
But they're supposed to protect the sacred jewel, and Kagome accidentally, while trying to stop a crow from stealing it, shoots the jewel, and it shatters into like 1 million pieces and flies all across Japan. So they team up with a little fox demon named Shippo, a lecherous womanizing monk with a wind tunnel in his right hand named Moroku, and a demon slayer named Songo with her twin-tailed demon cat Kilala.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just go on adventures across Japan to get all the sacred jewel shards back and prevent the half-demon Naraku from getting them and causing, destruction and horrible things from happening. So.
Oh boy, Inuyasha.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's definitely like if you looked in the dictionary and you looked up shonen anime, it's right there. There's the picture of it right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But I really enjoyed this series because it was kind of like I watched Pokemon, I watched Yu-Gi-Oh, things like that. But I never really got into anime. Inuyasha was definitely my introduction.
Sure. Yeah.
To anime.
To anime proper, not just like this happens to be on TV with the rest of the stuff I'm watching.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was an overall like arcing great series, and I go back and I find myself every now and then like, binge watching it again just because I'm like, man, I really like this series. I want to go watch it again. Of course, I don't really go back and start at episode 1, which I finally did do after sitting and watching with my friend. I did go back and watch it at episode 1. I kind of go back and I watch it right around when Songo enters the series, which is like the 20-something episode.
Okay. Yeah.
Just
because
we
mentioned that in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because the beginning episodes are great and all, they're all fantastic and wonderful when you first meet these characters, but they're kind of cringe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once Songo enters the series, it definitely becomes less about this exposition and more about we need to go get the sacred jewel shards and stop Naraku.
Okay.
So,
okay.
It's great and all. And oddly enough, after we talked about doing this episode, the same day we talked about it, Rumiko Takahashi, the creator of the series, actually announced a sequel series.
I heard about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Supposed to be about their kids.
Oh, no.
And the internet is less freaking out over the fact that Inuyasha and Kagome have a kid, or that Moroku and Songo's kids, which, oh no, spoiler alert, they have kids. And they all get together. Ooh, the series is like what, over 10 years old now?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. But everyone's freaking out over the fact that Sesshomaru, who is Inuyasha's half-brother, who plays kind of an antagonistic / anti-hero role in the series, has a daughter. And they're like, wait, what?
Ah.
So I'm curious to see what the series brings. I'm excited. So
yeah. Well, speaking of Rumiko Takahashi, uh, she is one of my favorite manga creators. I checked out Inuyasha because I liked a lot of her other work. I not to give more honorable mentions, but Mermaid Scar and Mermaid's Forest are both fantastic. Those are both manga series, and I know there's an anime for at least Mermaid Scar. I don't know if there is a Mermaid's Forest anime. If there is, I haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both kind of one-shot deals. Like it's just a short movie.
Mhm.
But my favorite Rumiko Takahashi series is Ranma One Half.
That's a
Um,
good series.
yeah, I was introduced to Ranma on the bus going to summer camp in 1993 because one of the kids that was like a pal of mine at summer camp, one of my camp friends,
Mhm.
he was into, and I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong, manga, which he described as the art of Japanese comic collecting. Um, we were 10 or 11. Like, we didn't know what we were talking about. We were trying. We were trying. We later found out, or I later found out, it's pronounced manga, and it's not the art of Japanese comic collecting. It's just Japanese comics. Like,
Yeah.
that's just what comics in Japan are called. But yeah, he introduced me to Gundam and Ranma and some movies that I can't remember now, because it was 1993 and now
Mhm.
it's 2020.
Yep.
But Ranma was an interesting concept to me. So the Ranma manga was serialized in Weekly Shonen Sunday from 1987 until March of 1996, with the chapters collected into 38 volumes. So there's a lot of the manga, and then there are 161 TV episodes with 3 movies and 12 original video animations or OVAs,
Oh, wow.
which are effectively straight to video episodes. Like, they're longer than regular episodes, but they're not long enough to be a feature film, right? So they're
Yeah.
kind of in that 40 to 50-minute range. And there's 12 of those. So
Dang.
yeah, so there's a lot of Ranma. I own all of the TV series and the movies and the OVAs, mostly on Blu-ray, but I still have to recollect a couple of them on Blu-ray. But I have the ones I don't have on Blu-ray, I still have on DVD.
Mhm.
And I've got like 8 volumes of the manga, and it's just because it's not as popular as I would like it to be. So it's harder to find the manga. Also,
Yeah.
I started collecting the manga back when it was still mirrored, so you could read it left to right rather than right to left. And
Oh.
so, because this is old American produced manga translations, and so part of me wants to keep collecting that version, which is impossible.
Yeah.
So one of these days I'll have to get over that and just, I don't know, figure it out. Anyways, Ranma One Half is the story about a 16-year-old boy named Ranma who goes on a martial arts training mission with his father, and they go from their home in Japan to the cursed springs of Jusenkyo in China. While they are training near these springs, Ranma falls in, and when he emerges from the water, he is a busty redheaded girl. And then his father, Genma, falls in a different spring, and when he emerges, he is a panda bear. And
Like you do.
yeah. It turns out that when you fall into one of the cursed springs in Jusenkyo, you take on the form of whatever last drowned in that spring. So Ranma fell in the the cursed spring of drowned girl, and Genma fell in the cursed spring of drowned panda. And as you go through the series, we meet, for example, Shampoo, who fell in the spring of drowned cat, Ryoga, who fell in the spring of drowned pig, and let's see, Moose fell in the cursed spring of drowned swan, duck. I don't remember what he turns into exactly. Some sort of waterfowl. And there's a couple more as you go through the series.
Huh.
Ranma and Genma come back from their training mission to go live with Genma's best friend Son Tendo and his 3 daughters, because Genma and Son had arranged marriages between their children. Now, they didn't specify which of the daughters Ranma was going to end up with, but there's the oldest daughter, Kasumi, who's like a nice, doting, like house mother type. There's Nabiki, who's, we'll say, money grubbing. Anything she does, she's trying to make money off of it.
Okay.
And there's Akane, the martial arts studying tomboy who, hates boys. So naturally, Ranma and Akane end up engaged to each other as per, the parents and older sisters' schemes. So, and Nabiki even says at one point, well, Akane, you hate boys and Ranma's only a boy half the time. Because the other side of the transformations is if you are splashed with warm water, you turn back into your normal form. And if you're splashed with cold water, you turn back into whatever your cursed spring form is.
So just take warm showers then.
Right. But they live in kind of on the outskirts of a major city. So there's not always hot water available. Yeah. Also, there's a pond in the backyard. So, and they slip and fall into that pond a lot. So you can't just go hopping in the shower every time,
Yeah.
you accidentally step in the pool. And of course, things like neighbors who are watering their plants, that water sprays on the transforming characters more often than would happen in real life, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, It is a martial arts romance comedy series. It's very funny. I believe most of it's on Hulu right now as well. Okay. So if you're interested in Ranma 1/2, if you think that the things that I just said over the last couple of minutes are too absurd to be real, RANMA 1/2, Ranma 1/2. It's again, it's up there with my favorite things from Japan ever. So yeah. There are some things I will say that in 2020 America, there are some gender politics that don't necessarily translate very well, but this is from 3 decades ago and another country. So keep that in watching. For example, it's explicitly stated Ranma is lower and stronger in male form and weaker but faster in female form. Great. Yeah. Just go with it. Some of these you have to go with because it's Japanese manga from 1987.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, though, it's really progressive for its time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what about you? What's one of your other favorite things?
So one of my other favorite animes, oddly enough, is based off of. I don't want to say everyone calls it one of the greatest love stories of all time because it was written by William Shakespeare, but Romeo and Juliet.
Sure.
And the reason why I'm saying, I'm not saying it's not one of the best love stories of all time. It really is. It definitely is a really great love story, but there is an anime called Romeo X Juliet. It technically is Romeo and Juliet because the X in, and when you ship two characters together, you put the X between them, not an and.
Right.
But if I say Romeo and Juliet to a random person, they will just think the William Shakespeare play.
Yeah.
Or the Leonardo DiCaprio version.
No, that one's Romeo plus Juliet.
Well, that is. It's Romeo plus Juliet.
Very specifically a plus. Yeah.
It's a plus.
Yep.
But this one is very specifically an X.
Yes. Okay.
And unlike the actual, its origin story, it does not take place within a week.
Okay.
So I was just looking up animes one day, just kind of looking at things to watch, and I saw this and I thought, okay, it's about 24 episodes long. Why not? I'll take a look at it. And in episode 1, ish got real quick.
Okay.
Because, in the actual story of Romeo and Juliet, they meet at a party and they have the secret romance. And then by the end of the week, they're both dead.
Right.
This kind of takes place what feels like over several months.
Okay. Also, spoilers for Romeo and Juliet, by the way.
Yeah, there are spoilers ahead.
Everyone dies at the end.
Everyone dies at the end. It's like Hamlet. Everyone dies at the end. But no. So this, just in episode 1 alone, I don't even know where to go with this because it's I want to just describe how crazy different this series is, but how incredibly great it is at the same time. But pretty much how the story goes is that one night in the flying kingdom of Neo Verona.
Okay.
Why it's flying, I don't know. It's flying.
It's anime. That's cool.
It's anime. There's mystical reasons behind it that we learn later in the series, but it's flying.
Yeah.
The king of Neo Verona, King Capulet, and his family are murdered in their sleep.
Sure.
At the hands of Lord Montague.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And the only survivors are the head of the guard, Juliet, and her handmaiden, Cordelia. But Juliet's like 2 when this happens.
Okay.
And 14 years later, Juliet's been living undercover as a guy named Odin.
Okay.
Yep, and she runs around Neo Verona and does her own thing, and she's come up with her own caped crusader known as the Red Whirlwind, who saves damsels in distress and people like that.
This is not okay. Go on.
I know.
This is not
This is not what you expected at all.
No.
No. It's funny, and I'm still only describing episode 1.
Okay.
But no, but it's just but one night but Juliet lives in hiding inside of, oddly enough, William Shakespeare's house, because he's in the series too. And he's trying to put on Othello. And one night his leading actress, Ophelia, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Drags Odin and says, "I need you to dress up as a girl and come with me to this party tonight, because I don't want to be seen with another guy with my date and everything." And it's just like, okay, so Juliet as Odin dresses up as a girl. And they go to this party, and this is where the fated Romeo and Juliet encounter happen and kind of sparks off the whole series.
Okay.
But the whole series is very, it has its beautiful romance moments and sweet, kind of followings of Romeo, but it definitely villainizes Lord Montague, even Mercutio, I can't even say his name right now. Mercutio, wow, I can't.
Speaking of weird Japanese names that we can't say. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Well, you guys know who I'm talking about. They really villainize certain characters in the series, but they also do a really good job of just telling the love story that's forbidden between these two. And what makes the series even more, I think, great is all of the action that takes place, all of the fighting, all of the just adventure that happens. It's really kind of awesome.
Okay.
When Tybalt comes into the series, you're just like, wait, this is Tybalt?
Okay.
And one of the other best things about it is that the theme song for the entire series is a Japanese version of the song "You Raise Me Up."
The worship Jesus song?
Yeah.
By, is it Jars of Clay? No, that's Lift Me Up.
No, it's by I can't remember who it's by.
Okay.
Josh Groban's done a cover of it.
Okay.
But that's like the
Maybe
theme song of the series.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a theme song of the series, and at one point in the series, it just randomly, even in Japanese, if you watch the Japanese dub, it just randomly comes in English at one point.
Sure.
And it's during this really powerful moment, and it's a great series.
Okay.
I always highly recommend it. It's only 24 episodes long. All episodes are on YouTube, and you could fly through them in a week.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's see. The power of my magical clock says we have about 9 minutes left, so we're gonna fly through these last two. But that's okay, because my next one is Dragon Ball Z, which we've all heard of.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
Dragon Ball Z is separate from Dragon Ball in America, but actually isn't necessarily in Japan. Dragon Ball, the manga, is just Dragon Ball. In Japan. It's 30 something, 40 something volumes long altogether. But the anime got split because they changed animation companies. The animation houses changed partway through. And it came at a point where the original Dragon Ball is about Goku growing up and becoming an adult. And then Dragon Ball Z is very much Goku has a kid, and is an adult, and you find out like the origins of where he came from and why he has a weird monkey tail and everything. And so there's actually like a good split in the middle of the series to do a second series.
Okay.
I enjoy the original Dragon Ball just fine, but it's kind of bonus features for me, right? Like I got introduced to the series as Dragon Ball Z. I found out later I actually started watching at the first episode of Z. And then when I later found out that there was a prequel series or like a first series, I was like, oh, that explains why all these characters act like they know each other, even though none of us know who any of them are. But yeah. Dragon Ball Z is high octane martial arts action when they're not busy saying way too much expository dialogue.
Yeah.
There are a lot of episodes of Dragon Ball Z.
I think it's still considered the longest running series of all time.
It is 291 episodes, 13 movies, 2 television specials, 1 quote-unquote lost movies comprised of footage from an obscure FMV game, and the 20th anniversary movie, Battle of the Gods. So there's a lot.
Okay, so maybe it's not the longest running of all time, but it's definitely. But if you consider that and Dragon Ball Super and
right. So one of again, Dragon Ball is one of those series where the manga was going for years, and the anime came out, and then the anime caught up and needed a lot of filler episodes, which is part of why there's so much of it. I don't know the year off the top of my head, but a few years later, decided to do what they're calling Dragon Ball Kai, where cutting out all the filler, so it's closer to the manga, and things where they need to re-animate some scenes to make them better, like they've done that, but otherwise it's just kind of a remastering of the original anime with completely new dubs. And there's only 159 episodes of Dragon Ball Kai, or 160 something. I don't know. I think it's 159 have aired in the US, but there is slightly more internationally. I got a couple different numbers there. So it's either 159 or 167, depending on how you count. So if you want to watch Dragon Ball on fast forward, much like you can with Sailor Moon Crystal, you can with Dragon Ball Kai. Or just read the manga, because you can get those. They did the manga where they did them 3-in-1 volumes, right? So, and they're like $20, and there's only 9 of those. So you can get through those way faster than you can watch all of the episodes of anything. Wow. But Dragon Ball became kind of this weird international phenomenon when it hit the US in like late 96, early 97. And especially once Cartoon Network and Toonami picked it up, it was just like, oh, are you a kid in the late 90s? Well, guess what? You're watching Dragon Ball. Like,
you know what's interesting? Toonami has changed their nightly lineup, as series progress and finish and things like that, and new ones come out. Dragon Ball has been the one constant on Toonami since it started in the early 2000s.
Yes and no.
Really?
So Dragon Ball wasn't on the original Toonami. We should just do a Toonami episode sometime.
We should. It'd be fun.
The original Toonami was mostly American action cartoons that were that had a Japanese animation house. And then they retooled it after a year, because Toonami is obviously a play on cartoons, and tsunami, the Japanese word for tidal wave, effectively. Someone can get on me about there's a difference between tidal waves and tsunamis. It's fine. But yeah, like it there was a split with Toonami, and everyone forgets about the first one because it's not very good. I mean, it was fine. But the first retooling of Toonami was the one everyone remembers, and that's the one that made the impact.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, Dragon Ball Z, there's a lot of it. You've heard of it. Go watch it, or you probably already have. Oh, also, Dragon Ball Abridged on.
Oh my God, it's great.
4-star. It's funny if you don't know Dragon Ball. It's funnier if you do.
I watched it. I don't know Dragon Ball all that well, and I still found myself laughing at it.
Yeah. Dragon Ball Abridged is a fan dub and re-edit of the series. I think there's like over 100 episodes of that now too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty great. And if you are a Dragon Ball fan, you just want to laugh at it, go find Dragon Ball Abridged on YouTube or Team4Star.com. And if you are not introduced to Dragon Ball Z, it might be a fun way to check it out. But I still recommend Dragon Ball Kai. I don't know if Dragon Ball is streaming anywhere, actually, off the top of my head. It's not on. Dragon Ball is on Hulu. Dragon Ball Z is not.
Yeah. I don't actually know. I think it's on Fun. I think you can actually find it like on Funimation or like Crunchyroll maybe, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, on Funimation.com. Let's see. You can buy full seasons.
Well, you can find it somewhere. It's out there somewhere.
I mean, here's the thing. It's not hard to find. It might be trickier to find streaming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, it's out there. It's readily available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. We got not very long. What do you got? What's your last one?
All right. My last one is one that I know I have talked about on this show before, but not like into the full detail, is Fairy Tail.
Yeah.
So Fairy Tail was created by Hiro Mashima. And long story short, it is about this magic wizards guild in the kingdom of Fiore, in the town of Magnolia, that just goes on adventures. Like there are main characters in the series. There's Natsu, Lucy, Happy, the flying blue cat, Gray, and Urza. But the main protagonist of the series is Fairy Tail, is the guild itself. Because you're never just following a story that's like, okay, well, we're just going to follow Lucy's story over here. It's like, no, you also follow this story and that story and these stories. And it's really, really great. The series came out it came out in manga form in like the mid 2000s, and literally the manga finished in 2017.
Oh, wow.
Okay. The anime itself started in 2009 and finished in 2019. It finished last September in Japanese.
Yeah.
And it finished in October in English. Let me tell you why. So very much like all the other anime series that we've listed on here that have like, they caught up with the manga and then they just started throwing things out there just to kind of like
just
fill the void. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fairy Tail didn't do that.
Oh.
They have 3 segments of their series. So they have their initial run, which was from 2009 to April 30th, 2013. And that's just in Japanese. That's not including English dub.
Sure.
I think the English dub has actually been a constant. Like they've actually been releasing fairly regularly. Like there hasn't been too many big breaks, that they've kind of flowed with everything fairly well.
Okay.
But yeah, no, so the series ended then in 2013 on the 30th. And on April 5th, 2014, they started back up again once the manga had gotten a little bit further along. And then they caught back up to it in March of 2016.
Okay.
And then finally the manga finished, and then they released on October 27th, 2018, the new episodes, 1 episode at a time every week. And then 2 weeks later, after they dropped the first episode in Japanese, they dropped it in English. So if you wanted to watch in English, you could wait 2 weeks and then watch, or you could watch both and just be confused. It was up to you.
Sure.
But that's pretty much how the whole series ran, and it's all on Funimation. The first season is on Netflix, though.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's currently sitting at 328 episodes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
2 feature films that actually did play in the movie theaters.
Okay.
And they currently, literally as of 2018, but technically wasn't officially released to America until after the manga was completely finished. But they have a sequel manga out right now called Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest that takes place immediately after where the series left off. And yeah, it's just a great series. I highly recommend it to anyone. It does a really good job with character development and storytelling. And it's one of the few animes where it's very much inclusive for the audience. It's not about like, oh, hey, here's Naruto and his village, and you want to be a ninja, but they're not really welcoming you into the village. They're kind of just like, you just kind of want to be more of a ninja than be a part of Naruto's village.
Mm-hmm.
In Fairy Tail, it's not about like, oh, I just want to be a wizard. I doesn't care what guild you join. It's like, no, Fairy Tail's like, hey, you audience member that's watching, join our guild. We're awesome. Come, join us. Be a part of our family.
That's fun.
Yeah, and it's very inclusive, and you get very close with the characters. And it's, I think, the one anime that, aside from maybe Romeo x Juliet, that I've really cried at. So,
oh no.
But yeah, it's great. I highly recommend it. And they also have a video game coming out later this year, so I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and with that, we are out of time. So, Stephanie, thank you. Thanks to our friends at DefM Records for supplying our intro music. Visit them at defmrecords.com, DEAFMRECORDS.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Twitter and Facebook at Atomic Monsoon, and on Instagram at atomic_monsoon. You can email us at atomicmonsoon@gmail.com and find stuff on our Atomic Monsoon Redbubble store. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with more fun. Yay!